if he was a beam of light, what would happen? That's not efficient. Yeah.
Some takeaway points I have learned from your talk. Research begins with curiosity. No drama, no care. Logic corrects, care matters. Contribution needs obsession. And clarity mandatory, well-rounded beats narrow. And my question for you is, from an editor's perspective, what distinguishes a technically sound paper from one that's truly publishable in a top-tier journal?
So they could not be here in Ocean. They send their own reward and best wishes for a successful workshop.
Mình quen không rõ tiếng cho nên mình sẽ ghi âm để giới thiệu sơ qua về cảm nhận của mình trong cái buổi hôm đó. Thì giáo sư David Trafimow là người đạt giải Humboldt, là một trong những cái giải thưởng danh giá cao nhất mà nhà nghiên cứu tâm lý học có thể nhận được. Thầy đồng thời là editor của các tạp chí quy mô hàng đầu. Thì buổi hôm đó như là một cái buổi chia sẻ informal thôi, nhưng mà mình cũng học được rất là nhiều điều nha. Không hiểu sao thì có một cái term mà mình nhớ hoài, đó là cái cụm the banality of evil, sự tầm thường của cái ác. Cụm này là mình coi phim Bằng chứng thép mấy năm trước, khi mà phân tích về tâm lý học tội phạm thì người ta có kể ra một cái câu chuyện chấn động lịch sử hồi đó về 4 thủy thủ đắm tàu trôi dạt trên biển. Đó, mình cho cái năm luôn để các bạn dễ tìm, là 1884. Còn cái câu chuyện của thầy là cái khái niệm này được nói đến bởi triết gia là Hannah Arendt và tội ác của Đức Quốc xã. Những cái câu chuyện này đều ghê hết các bạn, và nó đều được đề cập đến trong cái khóa Justice khá là nổi tiếng của giáo sư Michael Sandel. Mấy cái clip mà triệu view, mấy bài giảng mà triệu view ở trên YouTube các bạn có thể tìm coi ha. Thì the banality of evil có nghĩa là nó nói về cái khả năng gây ác của những con người hoàn toàn bình thường khi mà bị đặt trong những cái hoàn cảnh đặc biệt. Còn ý của giáo sư ở trong cái lĩnh vực nghiên cứu này á, đó là sự xuất hiện của những người gọi là careerist trong khoa học, kẻ chạy theo sự nghiệp. Mình tạm dịch là như vậy. Thì nhiều nhà nghiên cứu hành động y hệt như là cái nhân vật Aceman. Thì họ chỉ tập trung vào cái việc xuất bản bài báo, đạt chỉ tiêu, thăng chức, biên chế. Nhưng mà sự nguy hiểm thì nằm ở không phải là ác ý của họ, mà nằm ở cái việc là họ ngừng đặt câu hỏi về ý nghĩa thực sự của những cái nghiên cứu mà họ đang làm. Đây không phải là cái ý chính của cái bài, đó là một cái điểm mà tự nhiên mình nhớ hoài ở trong cái bài nói chuyện thôi. Mà thầy thực sự ra là thầy nói về rất là nhiều những cái cụm từ khác nhau nha. Nhưng mà nói về vấn đề nghiên cứu á, thì giáo sư mở đầu bằng 3 điều quan trọng để mà xuất bản được bài báo. Đó là xuất bản bài báo trong tạp chí hàng đầu vậy. Đó là having a really good idea, có một ý tưởng thực sự là tốt, và bạn phải put it across, là bạn phải làm sao để truyền tải và diễn đạt được cái ý đó. Quan trọng là để cho mọi người hứng thú để nghe. Thì như là các bạn thấy có mấy từ khóa mà lúc đầu mình có nói. Và điều thứ ba là getting lucky. Còn chi tiết như thế nào thì bây giờ các bạn sẽ nghe cái phần giải thích của thầy ha.
Intelligence. It doesn't matter how smart you are or how smart you aren't. It really makes almost no difference, because creativity is not the same thing as intelligence. So if you think you're more intelligent than everybody, it's not going to help you. If you think you're less intelligent than everybody, don't worry about it. It doesn't matter. Okay? So what does matter? I think the first thing that matters is being a curious person. Why? Well, if you're curious about a lot of different things, and you read in a lot of different areas, it could be philosophy of science, it could be the history of physics, okay, it could be art, it could be general history, it could be biology. The point I'm trying to make is that people in different areas think in different ways. And you should be curious about all of these different areas. Am I making sense? Now I know that sounds like a lot of work, and I know that most of you have been trained to believe that you should just concentrate on one thing. That's a terrible mistake, in my opinion. Okay? I think it's very important to be a well-rounded person and to be knowledgeable in a lot of different fields. Why? Okay, here's why. People in different fields have different ways of thinking. I don't care if you memorize that the Battle of Hastings was in 1066. That doesn't matter. But to know the political situation, you might be able to apply that. For example, I don't know how many of you heard my talk on Monday. Okay, you did. Well, remember I mentioned about how Muslim traders and Frankish traders had developed their own language that was neither Arabic nor Francian, so that they could trade. And that gave me the idea, maybe I can convert findings obtained in many different ways into the common language, the lingua franca of probabilistic advantage. Okay? Take away my knowledge of history, maybe I don't think of that. Do you see what I'm trying to get across to you? That the first thing you just have to do, in my opinion again, others will tell you differently, is be a well-rounded person. To be honestly curious about everything. And it's got to be honest, because if it isn't honest, then you're not really going to care, and you're not really going to pick up how to think in different ways. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. I'll tell you a story that Diem already knows, but the rest of you don't know it. Just to give you an example of it. I was many years ago, well, maybe not that many, enough years ago, I hate to admit how old I am. I was in China, and they gave all of the people, they had invited an undergraduate student to take us around. And so my student said, where do you want to go? And I said, I want to go to the National Museum in Tiananmen Square. Okay, so we went, and there was a room full of Chinese porcelain from different dynasties, and there were cards in English and in Chinese saying what dynasty each piece was from and the quality of the piece. Okay, so we went through the room and it was fun. We went to a second room with more porcelain, only this time the cards were only in Chinese and not in English. Okay, my guide offered to translate for me, and I told him, don't worry about it. I know what all of the cards say. And he thought, are you crazy? You don't read Chinese, how can you know what the cards say? He just wouldn't believe me that I knew what all the cards said. So I told him, you choose some pieces, and for each piece that you choose, I'm going to tell you what dynasty it was from and what the quality is. And he thought that was crazy. There's no way I could do that. So he chose some pieces. I told him dynasty and quality for each piece. I was right each time, and he was absolutely dumbfounded. How could you do that? Okay. This wasn't a matter of intelligence. This was a matter of caring enough to look carefully at the pieces in the first room so that I could identify the different styles with the different dynasties. When I got into the second room, all I had to do was look at the piece, and I knew immediately which dynasty it was from. You see? And as far as the quality goes, I'm pretty good at art, so I always know what the quality is. Okay? You see what I'm saying? That's really caring. Any of you could have done that, but you probably wouldn't have because you wouldn't care enough. You see what I'm, as long as that's not all you do. But publishing in lesser journals can be part of an overall compelling vita. Okay? Now, if you don't have any in top journals, people might object to that. But if you have, 1 or 2 in top journals, and maybe you have 10 in lesser journals, the 1 or 2 in top journals make the lesser ones better, if I can use that sort of terminology. Now, editors, they're looking from the point of view of, is there a novel contribution here? That's what an editor wants. That you are making a novel contribution, that you're doing something that hasn't been done before. And if you want your paper to be accepted, you've simply got to make the novelty case. You have to. And that's where drama can help. Right?